The church was silent until she entered, dressed in black, with calm eyes, carrying a silver bucket of ice water. No one understood, not until she reached the open casket and poured the water directly onto her husband's face. The Williams home was located on a quiet street in an upscale neighborhood, an impressive contemporary design that Marin had created herself on a crisp autumn morning. Marin was in her home office, sorting through the mail that had accumulated during her week-long business trip to Chicago. "Bills, bills, more bills," she muttered, separating the envelopes into neat piles. Then she paused, holding an official-looking envelope from her bank. She opened it, expecting a routine statement, but what she saw made her blood run cold. Their joint savings account, where they had been depositing money for their dream home in Colorado, showed a balance of just that couldn't be right. There should be over $2.3 million in that account. Maureen quickly logged into her online banking. Her hands shook slightly as she typed. The statement wasn't wrong. Transaction after transaction showed withdrawals, some small, others large, over the last 18 months. All made by Derek. What the hell? She checked her other accounts. Her other account was also nearly empty. Only her personal account, which Derek couldn't access, remained intact. Marin leaned back in her chair, trying to make sense of it. Where had $2.3 million gone? She tried calling him again, straight to voicemail. "Derek, it's me. I just found the bank statement. Call me immediately." Marin paced the room, her mind racing. Something was very wrong. She opened her laptop and began searching through their digital records. Tax returns, investment accounts, credit card statements, looking for any clue. It took hours, but slowly a pattern emerged. The credit card statements showed charges at casinos in neighboring states, cash withdrawals near those same casinos, hotel rooms she knew nothing about, restaurants where they had never eaten together. Derek had a gambling problem, a serious one. The front door opened and closed. "Marin, are you home, honey?" Derek's voice called from the entryway, sounding casual and upbeat, as if nothing were wrong. Marin took a deep breath, closed the laptop, and went to confront her husband. Derek Williams was in their kitchen, setting down a bag of groceries. At 42, he still had the athletic build of the college baseball player he once was. His dark hair was starting to gray at the temples, which Marin had always thought made him look distinguished. His smile, the one that had first charmed her at a friend's barbecue 9 years ago, spread across his face when he saw her. "There's my award-winning architect. How was Chicago? I missed you." He moved to hug her, but Marin stepped back. "Where is our money, Derek?" His smile faltered slightly. "What do you mean?" "The $2.3 million in our savings account. It's gone, all of it." Derek's expression shifted through several emotions. "There must be some mistake," he said, turning to unpack the groceries. "I'll call the bank tomorrow." "I already checked online. The money is gone, Derek. Withdrawals, all made by you." He turned his back to her, arranging vegetables in the refrigerator with unusual care. "It's a temporary thing, Marin. I had to make some investments." "Investments?" Marin laughed bitterly. "Is that what they call blackjack tables now?" Derek froze, then slowly closed the refrigerator and turned to look at her. The charming smile was gone. "You've been checking my things?" "I've been checking our financial records after discovering our life savings have vanished," Marin corrected, her voice rising. "How long have you been gambling, Derek?" Derek ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture she had seen countless times. "It's not what you think. I had some losses, yes, but I'm about to turn it around. I have a system now, and there's a big game next weekend that—" "Stop." Marin held up her hand. "Just stop. Do you hear yourself? This isn't about a system or a big game. This is about addiction. You need help. I don't need help, Derek snapped. What I need is for my wife to support me instead of attacking me the moment I walk through the door. Support you? Marin's voice rose. You stole our life savings, money we worked for together, money for our future. I didn't steal anything, said Derek defensively. My name is on that account too. Marin looked at him, suddenly seeing a stranger where her husband had been. Who are you? Because the Derek I married would never do this. Something cold flashed in Derek's eyes. Maybe you never really knew me. Those words hung in the air between them, a terrible truth neither had acknowledged until now. I think you should stay somewhere else tonight, said Marin quietly. I need space to think. This is my house too, Derek protested. Yes, a house I designed, paid the down payment for, and have been paying the mortgage on for the last year apparently, said Marin. Please, Derek, just go. Fine, but you're overreacting. We'll fix this. After he left, Marin sat alone in her beautiful empty house, feeling like her entire life had been built on quicksand. 8 years of marriage, and she had no idea her husband was capable of this level of deception. The next morning, Marin woke up after a restless night to find several missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. When she returned the call, a woman answered. Pacific Northwest Insurance, this is Stephanie speaking. Marin frowned. Someone called me from this number. Oh, yes, Mrs. Williams. We've been trying to reach you regarding the life insurance policy. What life insurance policy? There was a pause. The policy your husband took out last month. There was a question about the beneficiary information. He listed you, of course, but there was an issue with the secondary beneficiary designation. Marin's mind spun. I didn't know my husband had taken out a new policy. Oh. Stephanie sounded uncomfortable. It is a rather substantial policy. $5 million. Mr. Williams said it was due to his new job position, which involved more travel. Standard procedure, right? $5 million. New policy. Last month, just when his finances had deteriorated beyond what could be hidden. I see, said Marin carefully. And who was listed as the secondary beneficiary? That's the issue. He listed his mother, Linda Williams, but there was a problem with her social security number. We just need the correct information. Marin barely remembered the rest of the conversation. After hanging up, she stood motionless, connecting dots. Derek had squandered their savings. He had taken out a massive life insurance policy. What was he planning? She tried calling him again. Still no answer. Marin passed the day in a daze, trying to understand it all. By evening, she had made a decision. Tomorrow, she would confront Derek. She would insist on addiction counseling, and they would need to meet with financial advisors to fix the mess he had created. If he refused, she would have to consider divorce. As she prepared for bed, her phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Williams? Asked a deep male voice. This is Officer Daniels from the Coast Guard. I'm afraid there has been an accident. Your husband's boat was found drifting empty, about 3 miles offshore. There was no sign of Mr. Williams. We have initiated search and rescue procedures, but with the water temperature and darkness falling, I need to prepare you. The chances of survival are very slim. Marin listened, her mind strangely clear despite the shock. When did this happen? A passing vessel reported the empty boat around 5:30 p.m. We've been searching for about 4 hours. As Officer Daniels continued explaining the search efforts, Marin went to her home office and opened her laptop. The browser was still open to her bank accounts from yesterday. She refreshed the page. A new transaction appeared. Time stamped 4:45 p.m. Today, transfer to offshore account. The remaining balance of her savings account. Her account now showed exactly 0. Marin interrupted Officer Daniels mid-sentence. When did you say the boat was found? Around 5:30 p.m., ma'am. But your husband could have fallen overboard sometime before, or exactly 45 minutes before, immediately after emptying your bank account. I understand, said Marin. Please keep me informed about the search. She hung up and stood in perfect stillness for several minutes. Then she opened a new browser window and typed, "How to fake your own death by drowning." The results were revealing. No body found. Remote location. Drifting boat. Asset transfer beforehand. Derek wasn't dead. He was running. A new text message appeared on her phone from another unknown number. I am so sorry about Derek. I'm here if you need anything. Stephanie, from Pacific Northwest Insurance. Marin stared at the message. One last piece fit into place. Stephanie, from the insurance company. The same company where Derek worked. The overly personal message from a supposed customer service representative. Derek wasn't just running. He was running with someone, and they had planned to take the $5 million payout with them. In that moment, shock gave way to realization. Something shifted in Marin Williams. The grief that should have overwhelmed her was replaced by a cold, clear focus. She didn't know how yet, but Derek Williams was about to learn he had made a terrible mistake. The boat Derek had supposedly fallen from was a 28-foot cabin cruiser they had bought 3 years ago. Marin had always been nervous on the water, so it had essentially become Derek's toy. Something he took out with friends or business associates. Now she realized it had been the perfect setup. Derek knew she rarely accompanied him on boat trips. He knew she couldn't confidently navigate the vessel herself. If he disappeared from it, Marin walked through her house with new eyes, looking for any additional clues Derek might have left. In his home office, she found credit card statements he had hidden from her, showing purchases of men's clothing she had never seen him wear, a prepaid phone receipt, and most incriminating of all, hidden behind the spare tire in the garage, a waterproof bag containing a passport in Derek's name with a slightly altered birth date. He had been planning this for months. Marin was still processing this revelation when Officer Daniels called back around midnight. Mrs. Williams, I'm afraid we've had to suspend the active search for tonight. Water conditions have deteriorated, and we haven't found any sign of your husband. We will resume at dawn, but I must prepare you for the possibility that this will become a recovery operation rather than a rescue. I understand, said Marin. Thank you for everything you are doing. A victim advocate will contact you in the morning. Is there anyone who can stay with you tonight, family or a friend? Yes, lied Marin. My sister is on her way. After hanging up, Marin made a decision. If Derek wanted to play dead, she would let him think he had succeeded. For now. She went to her computer and did something that would have been unthinkable just 24 hours earlier. She didn't delete Derek's browser history, which showed searches for how to fake drowning deaths and non-extradition countries. Instead, she took screenshots and saved them in a hidden folder. Then she went to bed. She slept soundly for the first time in weeks. The next morning, Marin began her performance as the devastated widow. She called his office. Her voice cracked appropriately as she explained Derek's accident. She accepted the Coast Guard's offer of a victim advocate, a kind woman named Rita, who arrived with resources on grief counseling and the process of declaring someone legally dead. It is very rare for bodies to be recovered after open water accidents like this, Rita explained gently. After 48 hours, the search will likely switch to recovery mode. But even then, the odds of finding remains are slim. Marin nodded, wiping her eyes with a tissue. What happens next? Legally, I mean. Well, without a body, your husband cannot be officially declared dead for some time. The waiting period varies by state, but it is generally 7 years. Marianne looked appropriately shocked. 7 years? What am I supposed to do for 7 years? There are provisions for these situations. You can petition the court for a declaration of death in absentia after a reasonable search period, especially given the circumstances of his disappearance. Marin nodded, filing this information away. And his life insurance? Rita looked sympathetic. That can be tricky without a death certificate. Insurance companies often require substantial proof of death or wait until the legal declaration. However, in clear cases like boat accidents, where extensive searches have been conducted, they sometimes make exceptions. Of course they do, thought Marin. That is exactly what Derek and Stephanie were counting on. Marin's phone vibrated with another text message from Stephanie. The Coast Guard called our office about Derek. I am devastated for you. Please let me know when you are ready to discuss the policy. Take all the time you need. She showed the message to Rita. Is that his insurance agent? Asked Rita, frowning slightly. Apparently, said Marin. I've never met her. Derek handled all the insurance matters. It's a bit familiar for a professional relationship, observed Rita. But everyone grieves differently. Maybe she knew him well through work. After Rita left, promising to return the next day, Marin received the call she had been expecting from the Coast Guard. The search was canceled. No sign of Derek Williams. Conditions had been perfect for a thorough search, and the area had been completely covered. The official conclusion? Derek Williams had fallen overboard and drowned. His body was likely swept out to sea by strong currents. Marin thanked them for their efforts, her voice appropriately hollow. Then she made 3 phone calls. Marin stood at the edge of the memorial garden, watching people enter the elegant pavilion where the celebration of Derek's life would be held. No casket, of course. No body had been found. Just an oversized portrait of Derek in his best suit, smiling that winning smile, surrounded by white roses and navy blue ribbons, his favorite color. It had been 2 weeks since Derek's accident, 2 weeks in which Marin had played the role of the grieving widow while secretly building her case. The security system was in place, tiny hidden cameras throughout the house. Tess Morgan, the private investigator, was making progress tracing the money, and Marin's divorce lawyer had helped her secure her remaining assets against future looting. Linda Williams, Derek's mother, approached Marin with a solemn expression. She had flown in from Arizona 3 days ago, staying in Marin's guest room and accepting condolences with regal grace. "You look lovely, dear," said Linda, adjusting the collar of Marin's black dress. "Derek would be proud of how you are handling this. Thank you for helping with the arrangements, Linda. I couldn't have done this without you." The older woman patted Marin's hand. "He was my only son." The private investigator had uncovered interesting information about Linda Williams, specifically that she had recently put her modest Arizona home on the market and had been researching properties in Belize, a country with no extradition treaty with the United States. "We should go in," said Linda, guiding Marin toward the pavilion. "People will expect us to greet them." When the memorial service was everything Derek would have wanted, sincere, but not overly emotional, with just the right balance of solemnity and celebration of life. Derek's boss spoke of his dedication and charm. College friends shared stories of his athletic prowess and leadership. Neighbors praised his community involvement. Marin listened to these tributes to a man who apparently never existed, at least not in the way they described him. When it was Marin's turn to speak, she approached the podium. The crowd went silent, ready for the widow's tearful tribute. "Derek and I would have celebrated our 9th anniversary next month," she began. Her voice trembled slightly. "We had so many plans, so many dreams for our future together." Marin paused, scanning the crowd. And there, at the back of the pavilion, partially hidden behind a column, she saw a figure in a dark jacket and sunglasses, head bowed. The build, the posture, Even with the attempted disguise, she would recognize her husband anywhere. Marin didn't miss a beat. Derek lived life to the fullest. He always said, "You can't take it with you when you go." I think about that a lot now. My husband was full of surprises until the very end. Marin continued, making direct eye contact with the observer wearing sunglasses. She finished her eulogy with a quote about the unpredictability of life and returned to her seat next to Linda. "Beautiful words, dear," whispered Linda. Marin noticed that during her speech, Linda had been typing on her phone beneath her prayer book. After the service, guests gathered for a reception in the garden. Marin accepted condolences with appropriate grief, while closely tracking the figure in sunglasses, who was now moving carefully around the perimeter of the gathering. At one point, she excused herself and walked in that direction, only to see the figure quickly retreat around a corner. Stephanie arrived at the reception fashionably late, dressed in a somber black dress that couldn't quite hide her model figure. In her early 30s, she was nearly a decade younger than Marin, with long blonde hair. "Marin," she said, hugging her. "What a beautiful service. Derek would have been very moved." Marin returned the hug, noting how Stephanie's eyes darted nervously around the garden. "Thank you for coming, Stephanie, and for all your support these last 2 weeks. Of course, whatever you need, day or night, we are processing the claim as quickly as possible." "That is very thoughtful," said Marin. "In fact, I was hoping we could meet tomorrow to go over the policy details." "Of course. Why don't I come to your house? It would be easier for you." "Perfect," Marin agreed. "Around noon? I'll be there." Stephanie's phone vibrated. "Excuse me, I must take this." Then as Stephanie walked away to answer her call, Marin noticed how she angled her body, speaking in a low but urgent voice. A moment later, Marin's own phone vibrated with a text message from Tess Morgan, the private investigator. "Sunglasses man left in black Audi. Got partial plate. Following him now." Marin slid her phone back into her purse. Things were going exactly as she hoped. Later that night, after the last of the guests had left, and Linda had retired to the guest room, claiming emotional exhaustion, Marin sat alone in her home office, reviewing the day's events. She opened her laptop to check the feed from the hidden cameras. Nothing unusual yet. Her phone vibrated with another text message from Tess. "Lost him in traffic but confirmed ID from distance. 99% sure it was your husband. We'll send photos tomorrow." Marin wasn't surprised. She had felt Derek's eyes on her throughout the memorial service. What kind of man attended his own funeral? A soft knock on her office door startled her. Linda was there, in a silk robe, looking concerned. "Still working, dear? You should rest." Marin closed her laptop. "Just tying up loose ends. Derek handled so much of our finances. I'm still trying to figure it all out." Linda entered the room, sitting on the edge of a chair. "Is there anything I can help with?" "That's very kind, but I think I have it under control," said Marin. Then, deciding to test a theory, she added, "Actually, there is something strange. Derek apparently transferred a large sum to an offshore account right before his accident. I can't figure out how to access it." Linda's expression remained neutral, but Marin noticed her hands tighten slightly on the arms of the chair. "How strange. Perhaps it was a business investment he hadn't told you about yet. Maybe men can be mysterious with financial matters," said Linda. "Richard was the same, always moving money for tax purposes or investment opportunities. I learned not to question it." "I suppose," said Marin. "Anyway, I should probably get some rest too. Stephanie is coming tomorrow to discuss Derek's life insurance policy." "The insurance agent?" "That's right. Thoughtful of her to come to you. She has been very supportive," said Marin. "The policy is quite substantial. $5 million. $5 million, Linda repeated. A hint of something. Calculation? Envy? in her voice. Well, Derek always thought of the future. After Linda returned to the guest room, Maren checked her security cameras once more. The exterior camera caught Linda standing by the guest room window, phone to her ear, speaking intensely. Unfortunately, the system didn't record audio from that distance. Maren went to bed, her mind racing with possibilities. If her suspicions were correct, Linda wasn't just a grieving mother. She was part of Derek's plan, which meant Maren now had 3 opponents: Derek, Stephanie, and Linda. Fortunately, none of them knew Maren was playing too, and she had no intention of losing. The next morning, Maren prepared for Stephanie's visit. She chose an outfit that made her look slightly frail, an oversized sweater that emphasized her recent weight loss, minimal makeup to highlight the circles under her eyes, the grieving widow struggling to cope. Linda announced during breakfast that she needed to run errands and would be out for several hours. "Don't wait for me for lunch, dear. Take your time. I'm sure you and Stephanie have much to discuss." After Linda left, Maren activated the recording function on all hidden cameras and prepared a tray with coffee and the homemade cookies Derek had always loved. The perfect grieving widow, keeping her husband's favorites, even in his absence. Stephanie arrived precisely at noon, dressed in a professional yet chic pantsuit, carrying a leather portfolio embossed with the Pacific Northwest Insurance logo. "Maren, how are you holding up?" she asked. "Day by day," replied Maren. "Some moments are harder than others." "Of course," Stephanie nodded. "The first few weeks are always the hardest, but you are doing remarkably well. Having support helps. Derek's mother is staying with me, and friends have been very kind." "And how is Linda? Such a lovely woman. Derek spoke of her often." "She is coping as best she can, losing her only child. I can't imagine." Stephanie nodded sympathetically, then opened her portfolio. "I know this is difficult, but we should discuss the policy. Given the circumstances of Derek's passing, there will be a few extra steps beyond a normal claim." "I assumed so," said Maren. No death certificate yet." "Exactly. However, Pacific Northwest Insurance has protocols for these situations. The Coast Guard report, the extensive search, the presumption of death. All of this plays in your favor." Maren frowned slightly. "In my favor?" Stephanie backpedaled quickly. "Poor choice of words. I simply meant the evidence supports the claim, which will make the process smoother." "I see," said Maren. "And how long does this process usually take?" "In cases like this, usually 3 to 6 months. We will need official Coast Guard reports, statements from witnesses who saw Derek leave on the boat that day, proof that a proper search was conducted, and eventually a court order declaring presumption of death. 6 months seems like a long time to wait when I'm struggling financially," said Maren. "With our savings invested, I can't access the mortgage payment." Stephanie reached out to pat her hand. "Don't worry. In hardship cases, we can sometimes provide an advance on the policy to help with immediate expenses." "How generous. That would be a huge help," said Maren gratefully. "Derek handled all our finances. I'm still trying to understand everything he left behind." Stephanie's phone vibrated. "I'm sorry. Where were we?" "The policy advance," Maren reminded her. As Stephanie described the requirements, Maren noticed she checked her phone repeatedly, clearly distracted by the message she had received. Finally, she excused herself to use the restroom. The moment Stephanie was out of sight, Maren activated the app on her phone that connected to the hidden cameras. The bathroom feed showed Stephanie not using the facilities, but making a call, speaking in a low, urgent voice. Thanks to the high-quality microphones, the words came through clearly. "She doesn't suspect a thing. Just follow the plan." "Yes, I told her about the advance." "No, Linda is not here. I can't talk long. I'm supposed to be in the bathroom. Just be patient. 6 months isn't a long time to wait for $5 million. Marin quickly closed the app upon hearing the bathroom door open. Stephanie returned, her professional composure restored. Now, about that advance, she continued. I will need you to sign these preliminary claim forms, just standard procedures acknowledging that Derek is presumed deceased and that you are the primary beneficiary. Marin accepted the forms, scanning them carefully. It says here that if Derek is found alive within 7 years, I would have to repay the full amount plus penalties. Stephanie nodded. Standard language for presumption of death cases, but given the circumstances, the chances of that are virtually zero. Virtually zero, repeated Marin, signing the forms. That is somewhat comforting, I suppose. After Stephanie left, Marin went straight to her office and downloaded the recording from the bathroom. She saved it alongside her growing file of evidence. Then she called Tess Morgan. I need you to follow Stephanie from Pacific Northwest Insurance, she instructed. 3 weeks after Derek's disappearance, Marin received an unexpected visitor. She was in her home office, reviewing the latest report from Tess Morgan, who had tracked Stephanie to a remote cabin in the mountains. Linda had finally returned to Arizona 2 days earlier, claiming she needed to tend to the sale of her house, promising to return soon for emotional support. Marin was relieved to have the house to herself again. Playing the grieving widow was exhausting. Marin opened the front door to find a tall woman with short silver hair and shrewd eyes standing on her porch. She wore a severe pantsuit and carried a slim briefcase. Sarah Williams? I'm Agent Collins from the Special Investigations Unit of Pacific Northwest Insurance. I was hoping we could speak about your husband's policy. Marin felt a jolt of alarm mixed with anticipation. This wasn't part of the script Stephanie had outlined. Of course, she said, stepping aside to let Agent Collins in. I wasn't expecting anyone from the insurance company today. These visits are usually unannounced, said Collins, her tone professional, but not impolite. Standard procedure for high-value claims with unusual circumstances. Marin led her into the living room, the same space where she had met with Stephanie. Collins remained standing, inspecting the room, while Marin quickly texted Tess Morgan. Insurance investigator here, Special Investigations Unit. Not part of their plan. Sweat Collins had sat down and opened her briefcase. Mrs. Williams, I want to be transparent with you. Whenever we have such a large policy that was taken out shortly before a presumed death, especially one without a body, we conduct a thorough investigation. I understand, said Marin. Is there a problem with the claim? Not necessarily a problem, but there are certain red flags that require closer examination. Your husband doubled his life insurance just 3 months ago. I wasn't aware of that, said Marin truthfully. And you weren't aware of the policy increase at all? No, Marin shook her head. I only found out about the policy after Derek's accident when Stephanie contacted me. Collins took a note. And your husband's financial situation at the time of his disappearance? Marin hesitated, deciding how much to reveal. This investigator could be an obstacle or an ally. To be honest, I recently discovered that our savings had been significantly depleted, she admitted. Collins' eyebrows rose slightly. Do you know what the money was used for? I believe he had a gambling problem, said Marin. I found evidence of visits to casinos, cash withdrawals near those locations. I see. Collins took more notes. And these financial troubles, did you report them to the Coast Guard during their investigation? No, admitted Marin. I was in shock, and to be honest, I didn't connect the two events immediately. It was only after I had time to process everything that I started to wonder. Wonder if your husband's disappearance might not have been an accident? Marin looked at her hands. Is it a terrible thing to think that about your own husband? Not at all, Collins assured her. Marin decided to take a calculated risk. "Agent Collins, may I speak frankly?" "Please do. I have started to suspect that Derek might have staged his disappearance," said Marin. Her voice trembled slightly. "The timing, the missing money, a new insurance policy I knew nothing about. Have you shared these suspicions with anyone else? The Coast Guard? The police?" "No." Marin shook her head. "I have no proof, and to be honest, I was afraid." "Afraid of what, Mrs. Williams?" "Afraid that if I voiced these suspicions and was wrong, I would be dishonoring Derek's memory. And if I was right, afraid of what it would mean for my future, for his family. His mother has been staying with me. She is devastated by his death." Collins nodded. "These are very difficult circumstances. I appreciate your candor." Marin took another risk. "There is something else, something I haven't told anyone." Collins leaned forward. "Go on." "The day Derek disappeared, there was a transfer from our joint account, the last of our savings, about $742,000. It happened less than an hour before his boat was found drifting empty." Collins' expression sharpened. "Do you have documentation of this transfer?" "Yes." Marin stood up. She retrieved her laptop and showed Collins the online bank records, pointing out the timestamp of the final transfer, shortly before Derek's disappearance. "This is very useful information, Mrs. Williams," said Collins. "May I ask why you didn't share this with Ms. Hughes?" Marin bit her lip. "To be honest, I wasn't sure who I could trust." Collins took another note. "Your instincts are good, Mrs. Williams. In my experience, trust should be earned, not given freely." Marin felt a surge of hope. Agent Collins might be the ally she needed. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now I continue my investigation," said Collins, closing her notebook. "I will look into your husband's financial records, his recent activities, his relationships. Standard procedure." "His relationships?" repeated Marin. "Yes," Collins nodded. "Was your marriage stable, Mrs. Williams?" "I had no suspicions until after his disappearance," said carefully. "But now, looking back, there were signs I missed. Late nights at work, business trips I wasn't invited to join, new clothes I never saw him wear. Classic patterns." Collins agreed. "It might surprise you to know that Ms. Hughes requested to be specifically assigned to your husband's policy when it was initiated 3 months ago." Marin's surprise was genuine. "She requested it specifically?" "Yes," Collins confirmed. "Unusual, but not forbidden. Insurance agents often prefer to work with clients they feel comfortable with, or clients they plan to defraud," thought Marin. "I would like to help your investigation in any way I can," offered Marin. Collins nodded, handing Marin a business card. "I appreciate that, Mrs. Williams. My direct line is on the card. If you think of anything else, however small, call me immediately." As Agent Collins was leaving, she paused at the door. "One more thing. Ms. Hughes mentioned that you have requested a hardship advance on the policy." "Yes," confirmed Marin. "With our savings depleted, I am worried about covering immediate expenses." "I understand," said Collins. "That request will be on hold pending my investigation. I hope that won't cause you too much hardship." "I'll manage," Marin assured her. After Collins left, Marin immediately called Tess Morgan and informed her of the visit. "This is actually good news," said Tess. "If the insurance company is investigating, they will have resources and authority that we don't have." "Agreed," said Marin. "What's new with Stephanie at the cabin?" "She visits it every Tuesday and Saturday night. Stays over. The man never leaves the property, but my telephoto lens caught clear images of him on the deck. It's definitely your husband. Can you get closer? Maybe plant some listening devices?" "Risky, but possible. The property is quite isolated. What is your goal here, Marin?" Marin considered the question. I want justice. Derek stole our savings, betrayed our marriage, and planned to disappear with $5 million that would have come out of the insurance company's pocket. He is not going to win this game. Well, he's obviously getting nervous, reported Tess. After watching your visitor today, I assume the woman in the pantsuit was the investigator, right? I followed her back to her office. 2 hours later, your husband and Stephanie had a heated argument on the cabin deck. Lots of gesturing, clearly arguing. Then they went inside and packed. They left about an hour ago. Marin felt a chill. Left? Where did they go? I followed them to a motel about 40 miles from here. They checked in under the names David and Sarah Miller, paid in cash. They're changing the plan, realized Marin. What do you think they'll do now? Asked Tess. He'll come back from the dead, she said with sudden certainty. He'll realize the insurance investigation could uncover his scheme. So he'll create a new story, one where he is the victim, not the villain. How do you know? Because that's Derek, explained Marin. He can't stand being the bad guy, even when he's clearly in the wrong. He'll come up with a story that makes him sympathetic, something that explains his disappearance without exonerating him. Like what? Asked Tess. Amnesia, said Marin. He'll claim he fell overboard, was rescued by someone, maybe a fisherman, and couldn't remember who he was. He's been struggling to regain his memory all this time, and now he's finally remembered enough to come home. That is actually plausible, admitted Tess, and it would explain the missing money without admitting to fraud. Exactly, said Marin. So, what's our move? Marin smiled grimly. We prepare for a miracle. My husband is about to return from the dead, and I need to be ready to welcome him home, exactly how he expects me to. That night, Marin sat in her home office, preparing for Derek's inevitable return. She reviewed all the evidence she had gathered. It was substantial, but would it be enough to prove insurance fraud? To prove that Derek had voluntarily abandoned his life, emptied their accounts, and attempted to fake his death for financial gain? Marin needed more. She needed Derek to incriminate himself. Her phone rang. Agent Collins. Mrs. Williams, I wanted to update you on some developments in my investigation. We have uncovered several troubling transactions in your husband's financial records. Large cash withdrawals, as you mentioned, but also purchases of camping gear, a prepaid phone, and a bus ticket to Mexico, dated 3 days after his disappearance. Mexico? Marin feigned surprise. Yes, the ticket was never used, but the purchase was made with your husband's credit card 2 weeks before he vanished. That seems definitive, said Marin. It is certainly suspicious, Collins agreed. I have also interviewed several of your husband's colleagues. 2 of them mentioned that Derek seemed particularly close to one of our agents, Stephanie Hughes. They were often seen having lunch together, and one colleague reported seeing them leaving a hotel together during a company conference in Portland last year. Are you suggesting my husband was having an affair with Ms. Hughes? Said Collins carefully. The evidence suggests a relationship beyond professional boundaries. I see, said Marin quietly. Agent Collins, I appreciate your thoroughness. We are getting closer to the truth, Mrs. Williams. I have also flagged your husband's passport in the system. If he attempts to use it at any border crossing or airport, we will be notified immediately. 4 days after Agent Collins' visit, Marin's prediction came true. It was just after 9 in the evening. She was in the kitchen making tea when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera feed on her phone, Derek had returned from the dead. Marin took a deep breath, slid her phone into her pocket, and went to open the door. The man standing before her was a carefully constructed version of her husband. Thin, exhausted, with haunted eyes, and dirty clothes that somehow managed to look artistically worn. Marin, it's me. I'm home. Derek? She whispered. Is it really you? How? How is this possible? He stumbled forward, catching her in his arms. The devoted husband, returning to his beloved wife. I fell overboard, he explained. The current was so strong, I thought I was going to die. But some fishermen found me. They pulled me onto their boat. I couldn't remember anything. Who I was, where I came from. They took me to a small clinic on the coast. Marin guided him to the sofa. You've been alive all this time? With amnesia? Derek nodded. The doctors called it dissociative amnesia, caused by trauma. I've been living in a shelter, trying to rebuild my identity. Then, yesterday, something clicked. I remembered your name, our address. I've been hitchhiking back home ever since. Why didn't the clinic contact the police? Asked Marin. Your disappearance was all over the local news. It was a small place, very remote. The fishermen who found me were undocumented. They were afraid to go to the authorities. And without ID, without knowing my name? Oh, Derek, exhaled Marin. I can't believe you're really here. I thought I had lost you forever. I found my way back to you. That's all that matters now. You must be exhausted, she said. Hungry? Thirsty? Should we go to the hospital? Just tired, said Derek. So tired. Maybe a shower and some sleep. We can go to the hospital tomorrow. Of course, Marin agreed, helping him to stand. Let me take care of you. In the bedroom, Derek looked around as if reacquainting himself with a forgotten space. It's all coming back to me now, he said softly. Pieces of my life, our life together. Take your time, Marin reassured him. Your memory will come back completely soon. Derek smiled gratefully. You were always the strong one. As Derek showered, Marin quickly texted Agent Collins. Derek has returned. Claims amnesia. Then she texted Tess. He is here. The plan proceeds. Monitor Stephanie's movements. When Derek came out of the bathroom, he looked more like himself. Shaved, hair still wet, wearing the pajamas Marin had laid out for him. For a moment, she almost forgot what he had done. Who he really was? Then she remembered the empty bank accounts, the secret girlfriend, the elaborate plan to fake his death for insurance money. Better? She asked, patting the bed beside her. Much, he sighed, sliding under the covers. I still can't believe I'm home. Me too, said Marin, keeping her distance but maintaining her loving facade. I have so many questions, but they can wait until morning. You need to rest. Just hold me, asked Derek, reaching for her. I've missed you so much. Marin steeled herself and moved into his embrace, fighting the repulsion she felt at touching him. Marin waited until Derek was sound asleep. Then, she slipped carefully out of bed. She went to her home office and reviewed the security camera footage of his arrival, studying his performance with a critical eye. Then she checked the feed from the bathroom camera from when he was showering. Derek had examined the bathroom carefully, checking behind the mirror, under the sink, even feeling the shower curtain rod, looking for surveillance devices. He hadn't found the tiny camera Maureen had hidden in the decorative vent. More importantly, while showering, he had made a call on a waterproof phone he kept in a hidden pocket of his dirty clothes. The audio was faint under the noise of the shower, but Maureen could make out snippets of the conversation. I'm in. She bought it completely. Tears and everything. No, don't come here yet. Give it a few days. Claim the advance first. Yes, I'll make the amnesia official tomorrow. Doctor's note. Police report. Insurance will have to pay. Just follow the plan. Marin saved the footage. Then she returned to bed, lying as far away from Derek as possible. The morning arrived with pale autumn sunlight filtering through the bedroom curtains. Marin had barely slept, her mind racing with plans and contingencies. Beside her, Derek slept. Deeply, Marin slipped out of bed and went downstairs to make breakfast, activating all hidden cameras as she went. Today would be crucial for gathering evidence. When Derek finally came down, he moved with the careful gait of someone still recovering from trauma. "Good morning," she said, placing a mug of coffee in front of him. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in weeks," said Derek, accepting the coffee gratefully. Marin had prepared his coffee exactly the way he liked it, with one significant addition. The sleeping pills she had crushed into the drink were mild enough not to be immediately noticeable, but strong enough to create the symptoms she needed. "I called Dr. Patterson," said Marin. "He is amazed by your return and wants to see you immediately. I also called the police. They need to update their missing persons report." Derek frowned slightly. "Can't that wait a day or two? I'm still adjusting." "Derek, you've been presumed dead for almost a month," said Marin with gentle firmness. "The Coast Guard conducted an exhaustive search. There is a police report. We need to officially confirm you are alive." Derek sipped his coffee. "You're right, of course. It's just overwhelming." "I understand," said Marin. "But the sooner we do the official part, the sooner we can focus on your recovery." As they ate breakfast, Marin asked careful questions about his experience, noting every inconsistency. The coffee was already taking effect. Derek was becoming a bit drowsy. "You mentioned some fishermen rescued you," Marin prompted. "Do you remember anything about them? Names? What their boat looked like?" Derek shook his head. "It's all so fuzzy, I think. I think the boat was blue, and one of the men might have been named Miguel or Manuel. And the clinic? Where exactly was it located?" "Somewhere north of here, near the Canadian border, I think. A small place, just a doctor and a nurse." Derek rubbed his temples. Marin nodded sympathetically. "Don't strain yourself. Your memory will come back in time." As they prepared to leave for the doctor's appointment, Derek suddenly swayed, grabbing the counter for support. "Derek!" Marin rushed to his side. "What's wrong?" "I feel strange," he mumbled, his words slightly slurred. "Dizzy. Maybe I stood up too fast. Here, sit down." Marin guided him to a chair. "Let me get you some water." Derek's condition deteriorated rapidly. His eyes couldn't focus, and his movements became increasingly uncoordinated. Marin watched with calculated concern, waiting for the perfect moment. When Derek slumped forward, nearly falling out of the chair, Marin made her move. She called 911. "Please, I need an ambulance," she said. Her voice trembled with convincing fear. "It's my husband. He returned home last night after being missing for weeks. He claims he had amnesia, but now he's collapsed. He's barely conscious. Please, hurry." While waiting for the ambulance, Marin knelt beside Derek, who was drifting in and out of consciousness. "Stay with me, Derek," she urged him, stroking his face for the benefit of the security cameras. "Help is on the way." Derek muttered something incoherent, his eyes struggling to focus on her face. When the paramedics arrived, Marin gave them a carefully crafted version of events. Derek had disappeared in a boating accident weeks ago. He had just returned last night claiming amnesia, and had suddenly collapsed this morning. "He hasn't been evaluated by any medical professional yet," she explained, as they loaded Derek onto a stretcher. "He refused to go to the hospital last night, saying he just needed to rest." "We'll take good care of him, ma'am," a paramedic assured her. "Which hospital do you prefer?" "Mercy General," said Marin without hesitation. She had chosen the hospital carefully. It was where her friend Sarah worked as a psychiatrist, specializing in trauma and memory disorders. Marin followed the ambulance in her car, making 2 important calls on the way. First to Sarah, giving her a brief but essential overview of the situation. Then to Agent Collins. "Derek has been taken to Mercy General," she reported. "He collapsed this morning, possibly a reaction to the trauma he's experienced, according to the paramedics. Thought you should know. I appreciate the update, said Collins. I'll meet you there. At the hospital, Maran played the worried wife to perfection. She paced the waiting room, asked appropriate questions about Derek's condition, and provided his medical history to the attending physician. Dr. Sarah Hughes, no relation to Stephanie Hughes, ironically, came to speak with Marin privately. Based on what you've told me about his alleged amnesia, disappearance, and now this collapse, we will keep him for observation and evaluation, explained Sarah, for the benefit of anyone listening. We need to rule out neurological issues, possible head injury, or psychological trauma. How long will that take? Asked Marin. At least 72 hours, said Sarah. Possibly longer. Marin nodded. Whatever he needs. I just want him to be okay. What no one else in the hospital knew was that Sarah wasn't just Marin's friend. She was also her ally in exposing Derek's fraud. As a psychiatrist specializing in trauma, she had the authority to order a psychological hold if she believed a patient might be a danger to himself or others. And based on Marin's evidence about Derek's elaborate deception, Sarah had ample reason to believe he posed a significant risk. When Agent Collins arrived, Marin met her in a quiet corner of the waiting room. The doctors are holding him for at least 72 hours of observation and evaluation, explained Marin. They are concerned about his mental state and the inconsistencies in his story. Collins nodded. This gives us time to investigate his amnesia claim. I will need access to his doctors with your permission as his wife. Of course, Marin agreed. Anything that helps uncover the truth. What exactly happened before he collapsed? Asked Collins. We were having breakfast, getting ready to see our family doctor, explained Marin. He seemed fine, maybe a little tired. Then suddenly he got dizzy. His speech slurred and he almost fell out of his chair. Had he taken any medication? Eaten or drunk anything unusual? Just coffee and toast, said Marin. Collins took a note. I will need to interview him once the doctors clear him to speak with me. In the meantime, I have assigned an agent to watch the hospital. Do you think someone might try to contact him here? Asked Marin, feigning surprise. In fraud cases involving multiple parties, it is common for co-conspirators to attempt contact, explained Collins. Marin nodded thoughtfully. Like Stephanie Hughes? Oh, she hesitated. Possibly his mother? Collins' expression sharpened. Do you have any reason to believe Linda Williams might be involved? She has been acting strangely since Derek disappeared, and she left suddenly to return to Arizona right before Derek appeared, said Marin. I will investigate that connection, promised Collins. The house felt different without Derek, cleaner somehow, as if his presence had been a contamination that had now been temporarily removed. Marin moved through the rooms with purpose, methodically searching for any evidence Derek might have hidden before his accident, or brought with him upon his miraculous return. She started in his home office, examining every drawer, every book, every possible hiding place. Derek had always been methodical, preferring paper records over digital ones for his most sensitive information. Behind the false bottom of his desk drawer, a hiding place Marin had discovered years ago looking for a stapler, she found a small leather notebook. Inside were handwritten notes detailing what appeared to be a timeline for his disappearance, locations, dates. Transfer. Most incriminating was a list labeled Story Elements for Return, with bullet points outlining exactly the amnesia story Derek had told her, down to the fictional fisherman named Miguel. Maran photographed every page before returning the notebook to its hiding place. In his bedroom, she discovered more evidence. Inside the lining of Derek's favorite leather jacket, the one he wasn't wearing when he returned, was a small key. It didn't match any lock in their house, but Marin had a strong suspicion about what it might open. A text from Tess Morgan confirmed her theory. Found a rental agreement for a storage unit in Stephanie's trash, Unit 342, at Secure Space Storage on Riverside Drive, paid in cash 3 months ago. The timing matched perfectly with when Derek had doubled his life insurance policy. Marin replied immediately, "I might have the key." While waiting for Tess's reply, Marin continued her search. In the guest room where Linda had stayed, she found a crumpled piece of paper wedged between the bed and the wall, apparently missed during Linda's hasty departure. It was a brochure for beachfront properties in Belize, with one circled in red pen and the note, "Perfect for us," written in the margin. Marin was photographing this evidence when her phone rang. Agent Collins. "Mrs. Williams, we have made a significant discovery," said Collins. "Your husband's fingerprints match those found in a cabin rented under the name David Miller. The cabin was paid for in cash for 3 months, starting 2 weeks before your husband's disappearance." "David Miller," repeated Marin, feigning surprise. "Yes, does that name mean anything to you?" "No," lied Marin, knowing full well it was the alias Tess had reported Derek using at the motel. "Where is this cabin?" "About 70 miles north, in a remote wooded area," explained Collins. "We obtained a search warrant based on the suspicious timing of the rental. Inside, we found men's clothing, supplies, and a laptop containing research on how to live off the grid." "So he was hiding there after his accident?" asked Marin. "It seems so," confirmed Collins. "And he wasn't alone. We also found women's clothing, along with 2 distinct sets of fingerprints, your husband's and another person's, whom we are still trying to identify." "Stephanie Hughes," suggested Marin quietly. "We are investigating that possibility," said Collins. "I have requested Ms. Hughes's fingerprints from our HR department under the pretext of updating security clearances." "What does this mean for Derek?" "It means his amnesia story is almost certainly fabricated," said Collins. "No one with amnesia rents a cabin under a false name. We are building an insurance fraud case." "I understand," said Marin. "Will you arrest him at the hospital?" "Not yet. We want to see who contacts him, who might be working with him." After hanging up, Marin received another text from Tess. "The key works. You won't believe what's inside. Sending photos now." The images that appeared on Marin's phone were astounding. The storage unit contained suitcases full of clothes, boxes of household items, a laptop, and most importantly, a file box containing what appeared to be multiple sets of identification documents, passports, driver's licenses, credit cards, all with Derek's photo, but with different names. "There's more," Tess texted. "Found jewelry that looks expensive. Not your style from what I've seen you wear. Guessing it belongs to another woman." Stephanie's, thought Marin. She recognized a distinctive sapphire pendant Stephanie had worn at Derek's memorial service, apparently her favorite piece. "Also found a burner phone," continued Tess. "Managed to access it. Texts between D and S discussing the plan. Explicit mentions of insurance money, new identities, plus a third person referred to as L. Linda, Derek's mother, wasn't just aware of the plan. She was an active participant. "Return everything exactly as you found it," instructed Marin. With every new piece of evidence, the case against Derek, Stephanie, and Linda grew stronger. But Marin wasn't satisfied with simply exposing their fraud. She wanted Derek to face the consequences of his betrayal in the most public and humiliating way possible. She began to formulate the next phase of her plan, one that would require perfect timing and a dramatic flair that matched Derek's own. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Derek was not having a good day. According to Sarah, he had woken up from sedation angry and confused, demanding to be released. When told he was being held for psychological evaluation, He had become belligerent, insisting there was nothing wrong with him. He claimed his collapse must have been due to exhaustion from his ordeal, Sarah reported by phone. When I pressed him for details about his amnesia experience, he became defensive and vague about several elements of his story. Did he try to contact anyone? Asked Marin. He asked for his phone, which we haven't given him, and requested we call his mother to let her know he is alive. We told him you would handle family notifications. Perfect, said Marin. Keep him there as long as legally possible. The 72-hour hold is just the beginning, Sarah assured her. Based on his inconsistent statements and apparent delusional thinking, insisting on an amnesia story that evidence contradicts, I can recommend an extended evaluation period, if necessary. 2 days after Derek's hospitalization, Marin received an unexpected visitor at home. Stephanie Hughes appeared at her door, looking appropriately concerned in a modest black dress, still playing the role of the supportive insurance agent. Marin, I just heard Derek has been found alive. It's a miracle. How is he? Marin invited her in, secretly activating the recording function on all hidden cameras. He's in the hospital. He collapsed shortly after returning home. The doctors are keeping him for observation and psychological evaluation. How terrible, said Stephanie. After everything he's been through, now this. Do they know what caused his collapse? They are still running tests, said Marin vaguely. They are concerned about his mental state. His amnesia story seems inconsistent. A flicker of alarm crossed Stephanie's face before she controlled it. Inconsistent? In what way? Oh, small details. The doctors say that's normal with trauma-induced memory loss. The brain fills in gaps with confabulations, false memories, that seem real to the patient. Stephanie relaxed slightly. Does that make sense? Yes, Marin agreed. It's almost unbelievable. One day, I'm a widow. The next, my husband returns from the dead. About that, obviously, the insurance claim will need to be withdrawn now that Derek has been found alive. Of course, Marin nodded. I brought the forms. Stephanie pulled several documents from her bag. And I should mention that the hardship advance you requested was still processing, so fortunately there is nothing to repay. I understand. Just grateful to have Derek back. Is Derek expected to return home soon? The doctors aren't sure, said Marin. They are worried about his mental state. Which hospital is he in? I should send flowers from the company. Marin smiled weakly. Mercy General, but no visitors allowed yet. Of course. Stephanie nodded. Well, please give him my best wishes when you see him. After Stephanie left, Marin checked the security footage. As she suspected, Stephanie had taken advantage of a moment when Marin went to the kitchen for water to quickly search through papers on the coffee table and take photos of several documents with her phone. Marin immediately called Agent Collins. Stephanie Hughes just left my house. She was taking photos of documents. Interesting, said Collins. We just received confirmation that her fingerprints match those found in the cabin with your husband, and we have been monitoring her phone. She made a call immediately after leaving your house to a burner phone we haven't been able to trace. Linda Williams, suggested Marin. I am convinced she is involved, too. We are investigating that connection, confirmed Collins. In the meantime, your husband has made a remarkable recovery at the hospital. Too remarkable, according to Dr. Hughes. His symptoms have completely disappeared, and he is now demanding to be released. What happens when he is released? Asked Marin. We still don't have enough evidence to arrest him for insurance fraud, admitted Collins. We can prove he lived in that cabin during his supposed amnesia period, but not that he deliberately faked his disappearance to claim insurance money. What if he tries to disappear again? We have him and Ms. Hughes under surveillance. Marin considered this. What if I could make him confess? Admit to the whole plan? That would certainly strengthen our case, said Collins carefully. but I cannot now advise you to put yourself at risk, Mrs. Williams." "I understand," said Marin, "but I think I know exactly how to get him to reveal the truth." After hanging up, Machen received a text from Sarah. "Derek now claims to have chest pains. Says it might be cardiac trauma related to his near drowning. We are running tests, but I think he is faking to get transferred out of psychiatric hold." She replied, "Let him think it's working. Make it look like you believe him." The next morning, Marin received the news she had been expecting. Derek had apparently suffered a mild heart attack during the night and was being moved to the cardiac unit for treatment and observation. Sarah's message was clear. "He's faking, but we're playing along. Monitoring equipment shows normal heart function." This was Derek's next move in his chess game, a second death that would allow him to escape psychiatric hold and eventually the hospital altogether. Marin needed to stay one step ahead. She called Agent Collins immediately. "Derek is faking a heart attack to get moved within the hospital. I think he plans to escape." "We are aware," Collins assured her. "We have agents stationed at all hospital exits and are monitoring his room. I have a better idea," said Marin. "Let him think he has succeeded. Let him escape, and see where he goes or who comes to help him." Collins considered this. A controlled release could yield valuable information, but it puts our case at risk if he manages to truly disappear. "He won't," said Marin confidently. "He will come back here, to our house. He needs to maintain his amnesia story and his heart condition to avoid suspicion. Besides, he doesn't know we know about the storage unit or the cabin. He thinks his backup plan is still safe." "You sound very sure, Mrs. Williams." "I know my husband, Agent Collins. His ego won't let him run without trying to salvage his reputation first." After some discussion, Collins agreed to Marin's plan. Surveillance would be maintained, but subtle, allowing Derek to believe he had successfully evaded detection if he attempted to leave the hospital. What no one told Derek was that Marin had installed additional hidden cameras throughout their house while he was in the hospital. Every room, every possible hiding spot, was now under surveillance. If Derek returned, his every move would be recorded. That night, Sarah texted Marin. "He's made his move. Disconnected monitors during shift change. Slipped out of the hospital wearing scrubs he stole from laundry. Agents following at a distance." Marin braced herself. If her assessment of Derek was correct, he would return home not immediately, but within the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, she received another update from Tess Morgan regarding the storage unit. "New development. Someone accessed the unit today using a key. Female, mid-60s, gray hair. Took something from a small box and left quickly. Got photos." Marin examined the images Tess sent. It was Linda Williams, Derek's mother, removing what appeared to be cash from a lockbox in the storage unit. "Third conspirator confirmed," Marin texted back. "Send this to Agent Collins immediately." The pieces were falling into place. Linda had likely returned from Arizona to assist Derek with his new plan, whatever it was. Stephanie was monitoring the situation from her position at the insurance company, and Derek was now free from the hospital, undoubtedly planning his next move. Marin went to bed that night, with all security systems activated, certain that the final confrontation was approaching. She had gathered the evidence, set the stage, and prepared herself mentally. Now she just needed Derek to play his part. She didn't have to wait long. At 3:17 a.m., the silent alarm on her phone vibrated, alerting her that someone had entered the house using a key. Security cameras showed Derek entering through the back door, still in stolen hospital scrubs, moving silently through the kitchen. Marin remained in bed, feigning sleep, watching Derek's movements on her phone. He went directly to his office, retrieved something from the false drawer, the notebook Marin had discovered earlier, and then headed to their bedroom. She quickly set her phone aside and feigned sleep as Derek entered. He stood watching her for a moment. Then he went to his closet, selecting fresh clothes. After changing, he approached the bed. "Maren," he whispered, shaking her shoulder gently. She stirred, blinking up at him with carefully crafted confusion. "Derek? What? How are you here?" "I had to leave," he said urgently. "The doctors there didn't understand what was happening to me. My heart, Maren. I think the trauma of the accident damaged it." Maren sat up, the perfect picture of a worried wife. "Derek, you need medical attention. If your heart—" "Not there," he interrupted. "I don't trust them. Dr. Martinez, my old college roommate, remember? He has agreed to see me privately." Dr. Martinez, another name from Derek's timeline notebook. Another conspirator? "You shouldn't have left the hospital," protested Maren. "What if something happens? What if your heart—" "I'll be fine," Derek assured her. "I just need rest and proper care." Maren allowed herself to be persuaded, putting up just enough resistance to seem concerned, but not suspicious. "What can I do?" she asked, taking his hand. "Just keep me here," said Derek. "Believe in me. I know this all seems crazy, but I'm trying to get better, to be the husband you deserve." "I believe in you," she lied. "Whatever you need, I'm here." Derek smiled, kissing her forehead. "Try to get some sleep. We'll figure it all out in the morning." As Derek lay down beside her, Maren remained awake, updating Agent Collins via text about this new development. The agent's reply was immediate. "Keep him there if possible. We are building a case against Martinez now. Need 24 more hours." Over the next 2 days, Maren played along with Derek's increasingly elaborate fiction. According to his new story, Dr. Martinez had diagnosed him with a rare form of stress-induced cardiomyopathy caused by his near-drowning experience. He needed bed rest, minimal stress, and specialized medication, which Martinez had prescribed. In reality, Derek spent his days making furtive phone calls when he thought Maren couldn't hear, sneaking food at night when he was supposedly too weak to eat, and even holding whispered video calls with Stephanie from the bathroom. On the morning of the 3rd day, Derek initiated the next phase of his plan. Marianne found him collapsed on the bathroom floor, seemingly unconscious. Playing her role perfectly, Maren called 911, reporting that her husband, who had recently returned after being presumed dead in a boating accident, had collapsed and wasn't breathing. Paramedics arrived quickly, but by then, Derek had apparently died. No pulse, no breathing. They performed CPR and used a defibrillator, but nothing revived him. With appropriate solemnity, they declared him dead at the scene. Maren sobbed convincingly as they covered Derek's face with a sheet. She called Dr. Martinez, as Derek had instructed her to do in case of emergency, and within an hour, the doctor arrived to sign the death certificate without performing an autopsy, citing Derek's known heart condition as the cause of death. What Derek didn't know was that Maren had replaced the prescription pills he thought he was taking, actually harmless sugar pills, with a potent sedative the night before. Not enough to cause real harm, but enough to make him appear dead upon superficial examination. With Dr. Martinez's cooperation, he barely examined the body before signing the certificate. Derek was officially declared dead. Maren arranged for the body to be taken to Green Meadows Funeral Home, as Derek had specified in the emergency instructions he had given her. What Derek didn't know was that the funeral director, Mr. Holloway, was a client of Maren's architecture firm. "Everything is arranged as you requested, Mrs. Williams," Holloway assured her when they met privately. "The special sealed casket, the extended preservation techniques, and, of course, the discreet monitoring system. And no one else knows," confirmed Marin. Only my most trusted assistant who will help prepare the body, Holloway assured her. Your husband will appear deceased to everyone at the funeral. The special breathing apparatus, hidden in the casket lining, will keep him comfortable. And the sedative you provided will keep him still until the moment of the reveal. Marin nodded, satisfied with the arrangements. The funeral needs to be in 3 days. Can you handle that? Accelerated timeline. But yes, we can accommodate it, Holloway agreed. Open casket viewing, as you specified? Absolutely, confirmed Marin. With the funeral arrangements in place, Marin began contacting friends, family, and colleagues. Everyone who had attended Derek's first memorial service, plus a few strategic additions. Agent Collins would be there, along with several undercover officers. Tess Morgan would attend as Marin's cousin. Most importantly, Marin made personal calls to Stephanie Hughes and Linda Williams, informing them of Derek's tragic second death. The doctor said it was his heart, she told Linda. The trauma of the accident, the stress of the amnesia. It was too much for his system. My poor boy, sobbed Linda. To lose him first, then have him return only to lose him again. It is too cruel. I know, said Marin softly. He spoke of you often in his final days. I am booking a flight right now, promised Linda. I will be there tomorrow. Stephanie's reaction was more controlled. This is devastating news, Marin. Just when you had him back. I can't imagine your grief. Thank you, Stephanie, said Marin. The funeral is Thursday at 2 p.m., Green Meadows Funeral Home. I know it would mean a lot to Derek if you could attend. He always spoke highly of his colleagues at Pacific Northwest. Of course I'll be there, Stephanie assured her. Is there anything I can do to help with arrangements? Actually, yes, said Marin. Derek had mentioned that if anything happened to him, he wanted to be buried with a particular item, a silver pocket watch that belonged to his grandfather. I can't find it among his things. He said maybe he had shown it to you once. Does that ring a bell? The question was a trap, and Stephanie walked right into it. Oh, the silver watch with the engraving inside the lid. Yes, I remember him showing me that. Marin smiled to herself. Derek had never owned a silver pocket watch, and certainly not one from a grandfather who had died before Derek was born. Stephanie had just revealed her intimacy with Derek's possessions, knowledge an insurance agent would have no reason to have. After completing the calls, Marin met with Agent Collins to finalize the details of their plan. We now have enough evidence to arrest him, Collins informed her. Dr. Martinez's participation sealed it. He has agreed to cooperate in exchange for leniency. But you're waiting for the funeral? Confirmed Marin. Collins nodded. Your plan offers the chance to catch all 3 conspirators together, with irrefutable proof of their fraud. Legally sound? Pressed Marin. We have consulted with the district attorney. As long as we are simply observing a situation you have created, without entrapping or encouraging illegal activity, the evidence will be admissible. You are not a law enforcement officer, so different rules apply to your actions. Marin nodded. Satisfied. Then we proceed as planned. The day of the funeral arrived with perfect dramatic timing. Overcast skies, occasional thunder in the distance, nature providing the appropriate backdrop for the somber occasion. Marin dressed carefully in a black dress, elegant but understated, appropriate for a woman who had lost her husband twice in the span of a month. Linda had arrived the day before, staying at a hotel this time instead of Marin's house, claiming it brought back too many memories. Green Meadows Funeral Home was transformed for the occasion. Floral arrangements in navy blue and white, Derek's favorite colors, adorned the chapel. The sealed casket, specially designed with hidden air vents and monitoring equipment, stood at the front, open for viewing. Marin had specified that the funeral be recorded for family members unable to attend, providing perfect cover for multiple cameras placed throughout the chapel to capture the upcoming reveal from every angle. Guests began arriving at 1:30 p.m. Derek's colleagues from the insurance company, neighbors, friends from his college days. Linda sat in the front row, appropriately devastated in an expensive black suit, occasionally wiping her eyes with a handkerchief. Stephanie arrived looking suitably solemn, though Marin noticed her eyes darting nervously around the room, perhaps looking for some sign that this was a trap. At 2:00 p.m. sharp, the service began. The funeral director offered a gentle welcome, speaking of the unpredictability of life and the cruel twist of fate that had returned Derek briefly only to snatch him away again. A college friend delivered a brief eulogy, speaking of Derek's charm and vitality. A cousin performed a moving rendition of Amazing Grace. Throughout it all, Marin sat in the front row, the perfect grieving widow. Her eyes occasionally drifted to the open casket where Derek lay, seemingly lifeless, but actually in a heavily sedated state that would wear off precisely when needed. Finally, it was Marin's turn to speak. She approached the podium, the weight of 2 deaths seemingly heavy on her shoulders. "When Derek disappeared at sea, I thought I had lost him forever," she began. "When he returned, it seemed like a miracle, a second chance at the life we had built together. And now, to lose him again." The audience watched with sympathy, unaware they were about to witness something unprecedented. Derek always said he wanted to be remembered for his transparency, his honesty. He believed in facing the truth directly, no matter how difficult. Marin stepped away from the podium and walked toward the casket. "Before we say our final goodbye, I want to honor Derek in a way I think he would appreciate, a tradition from his mother's side of the family he once mentioned to me." Linda shifted uncomfortably in her seat, clearly confused. No such tradition existed. From beneath the podium, Marin pulled out a silver bucket filled with ice water. Derek always said he wanted to be refreshed one last time before his final rest, a symbolic cleansing of the spirit as he transitions to whatever comes next. Murmurs of confusion spread through the audience. This was not a familiar ritual to anyone present. Linda half rose from her seat. Alarm crossed her face. "Marin, I don't remember any such," she began. But Marin was already at the casket. "Goodbye, my love," said Marin clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "May this final gesture refresh your journey." And with that, she poured the entire bucket of ice water directly onto Derek's face. The effect was instant and electrifying. Derek sat bolt upright in the casket, gasping and sputtering, his eyes wide with shock and confusion as the ice water cascaded down his face and chest. "What the hell, Marin?" he screamed, wiping water from his eyes. The audience erupted into chaos. People screamed, stood up. Some backed away in terror. Others froze in disbelief. Phones were raised, recording the miraculous resurrection. In the third row, Stephanie stared in horror. Her carefully maintained facade crumbled completely. Marin stood perfectly calm next to the casket with the empty bucket. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "I present to you my husband, Derek Williams, very much alive." Derek looked around wildly, taking in the funeral setting, the shocked faces, the cameras recording everything. Realization dawned in his eyes. He had been caught, exposed in the most public and humiliating way possible. "Marin, what have you done?" he hissed, trying to climb out of the casket, but feeling weak from the sedatives. "I have simply revealed the truth, Derek," said Marin calmly. Agent Collins stepped forward from where she had been sitting at the back of the chapel. "Derek Williams, you are under arrest for insurance fraud, faking your own death. and conspiracy to commit theft. As Collins approached with handcuffs, Derek looked desperately around. His eyes found Stephanie, then Linda. "This is a misunderstanding," he protested. "I can explain everything." "I'm sure you can," said Marin, addressing the stunned audience instead of Derek. "Just like you explained your amnesia after your boat accident, just like you explained your heart condition. You've always been good with explanations, Derek." From her purse, Marin produced a remote control and pressed a button. The large screen at the front of the chapel, meant to show photos of the deceased during the service, sprang to life. Instead of memorial images, it played a series of video clips. Derek sneaking through the house at night while supposedly bedridden. Derek making calls on a hidden phone. Derek and Stephanie together at the remote cabin. Linda removing cash from the storage unit. "You see, while you were playing dead, I was gathering evidence," explained Marin. Evidence of an elaborate fraud involving not just Derek, but his girlfriend Stephanie Hughes from Pacific Northwest Insurance, his mother Linda Williams, and even his college friend, Dr. Martinez, who falsified his death certificate. Derek's face contorted with rage and panic. "You bitch! You set me up!" "No, Derek," corrected Marin calmly. "You set yourself up." At that moment, more police officers entered the chapel. One approached Stephanie, who had been slowly edging toward the door. Another went to Linda, who was frozen in shock. "Stephanie Hughes, Linda Williams," announced Agent Collins. "You are both under arrest as co-conspirators in this fraud." As rights were read and handcuffs were placed, the audience remained in stunned silence, struggling to process the unprecedented scene unfolding before them. Derek made a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "She drugged me," he shouted, pointing at Marin. "That's how she did it. She's the criminal here." Marin smiled serenely. "Actually, Derek, I simply gave you the medication prescribed by Dr. Martinez, the very doctor who has provided a full confession regarding your plan, the sedative that made you appear dead. That was your idea, not mine." As Derek was helped out of the casket and handcuffed, still dripping with ice water, Marin addressed the astonished funeral guests. "I apologize for the unorthodox nature of today. As you can see, this was not a funeral, but the culmination of an insurance fraud investigation. Thank you all for your unwitting help in bringing these criminals to justice." Here, the chapel erupted into excited conversation as Derek, Stephanie, and Linda were led away by police officers. Phones continued recording, ensuring this extraordinary event would soon be viral content on social media. The newspaper headline said it all. "Architect outsmarts husband's faked death with ice water and hidden cameras." It had been 6 months since the dramatic funeral revelation that had grabbed national headlines and made Marin Williams something of a folk hero. The video of Derek sitting up in his casket after being doused with ice water had gone viral, spawning countless memes, late-night comedy sketches, and even a Saturday Night Live parody. But for Marin, the result had been rebuilding, not delighting in her husband's public humiliation. She sat in her newly renovated home office, reviewing the final court documents that had arrived that morning. Derek had been sentenced to 15 years for insurance fraud, faking his own death, theft, and conspiracy. His mother, Linda, received 5 years for her role in the scheme. Stephanie Hughes got 7 years, with the possibility of parole after 3. Dr. Martinez lost his medical license and received a suspended sentence in exchange for his testimony. The investigation had uncovered even more than Marin had known. Derek's gambling problem was real, but it had been only part of the story. He and Stephanie had been involved for nearly 3 years. They had been planning their escape, using the insurance money and Marin's stolen savings for over a year. Linda's role had also been more significant than expected. She had acted as their financial manager, setting up offshore accounts and handling the transfer of funds. The Belize property brochure Marin had found wasn't just aspirational. Linda had already put a deposit on the beachfront house where the three of them planned to live after faking Derek's death. Most surprising was the discovery that this wasn't Derek's first attempt at fraud. Agent Collins had uncovered evidence of 2 previous insurance scams involving faked retail injuries, resulting in substantial settlements. Derek Williams had been a con artist for years. Marin had simply never seen that side of him until he turned on her. A knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. Tess Morgan was there, now not just Marin's private investigator, but her friend. "Ready for lunch?" asked Tess. "Collins is already waiting at the restaurant." "Absolutely. Let me grab my bag." They drove to a sleek bistro in the renovated downtown district, a building Marin's firm had designed 3 years earlier. "The woman of the moment," said Diane, as Marin sat down. "Have you seen the news?" "About Pacific Northwest Insurance?" asked Marin. "Yes, I received the official letter this morning. $1 million on top of keeping your savings," mused Tess, studying the menu. "Not bad for 6 months' work." "It was never about the money," Marin reminded them. "Of course not," agreed Diane, "but it doesn't hurt, especially considering what you're doing with it." What Marin was doing with the settlement money, along with her recovered savings, was creating the Second Chances Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to helping fraud victims rebuild their lives. The foundation provided financial counseling, legal assistance, and emotional support to individuals who had been betrayed by those they trusted. "The foundation officially opens next week," confirmed Marin. "We've already received over 50 requests for assistance." "It's remarkable," said Diane. "Most people in your position would have simply taken the money and left, starting over somewhere else." "Running away solves nothing," Marin shook her head. Their conversation was interrupted by a woman who approached their table hesitantly. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Marin Williams?" Marin nodded, offering a friendly smile. "Yes, I am. I'm sorry to bother you during your lunch, but I just wanted to say thank you," the woman continued. "My husband emptied our accounts and disappeared last year. After seeing your story on the news, I contacted the police with my suspicions instead of just accepting he was gone. They found him living under a false name 2 states away. Your courage gave me the strength to seek the truth." Marin was moved. "I am so glad you found answers. And justice, I hope." "He is facing charges now," confirmed the woman. "And I am rebuilding my life." After the woman left, Tess raised her glass. "To unexpected ripple effects. Not only did you catch your own con artist, you're helping others catch theirs." "I'll drink to that," agreed Diane, raising her glass as well. Marin joined the toast, reflecting on how differently things had turned out from what she had imagined 6 months ago. When she first discovered Derek's betrayal, she had focused solely on exposing his fraud. She hadn't anticipated becoming an advocate for other fraud victims or finding a new purpose in helping others navigate similar betrayals. After lunch, Marin returned to her office to finalize preparations for the foundation's opening. Marin's phone rang. The caller ID showed Blake Carson, her lawyer. "Marin, good news," said Blake when she answered. "The insurance company has transferred the settlement funds. They are already in the foundation's account." "Perfect timing," replied Marin. "We open next week." "There's more," continued Blake. "I received a letter from Derek's lawyer today. He wants to schedule a meeting with you." Marin frowned. "What for?" "Apparently, Derek wants to apologize in person. Says he's been doing a lot of thinking in prison." Marin considered this. 6 months ago, she would have dismissed it as yet another manipulation. Now she wasn't so sure. "Tell him I'll consider it," she said finally. "But not immediately. I have a foundation to launch." "Will do," agreed Blake. "And Marin, for what it's worth, I'm proud of how you've handled all this. Truly, not many people would turn such a personal betrayal into something that helps others." After hanging up, Marin walked to the large window overlooking the city. The skyline featured several buildings she had designed over the years, tangible proof of her creative vision and professional success. But the foundation represented something different, something deeper. It was about transformation, about taking the worst experience of her life and reshaping it into something that could help others heal. The doorbell rang, signaling someone had entered the foundation's main office. Marin turned to find Diane Collins standing in the doorway, holding a gift-wrapped package. "Sorry to drop by unannounced," said Diane, "but I wanted to give you this before your official opening." Marin accepted the package, unwrapping it carefully. Inside was a beautiful silver bucket, smaller and more elegant than the one she had used at the funeral, but unmistakably similar. "Thought it might be a sort of mascot for the foundation," explained Diane with a smile. Marin laughed, turning the bucket in her hands. "It's perfect. I'll display it prominently." "There is something else," said Diane. Her expression turned more serious. "I have been offered a position with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division." "That's wonderful," exclaimed Marin, "although I will miss working with you locally." "That's the thing," continued Diane. "I recommended they establish a satellite office here, focused specifically on relationship-based fraud, cases like yours, where personal betrayal and financial crimes intersect. They've approved it, and I'll be heading the office." "So you're staying?" said Marin. "Yes, and I was hoping the Second Chances Foundation would consider a formal partnership with our new office." Marin smiled, touched by the recognition of how her personal experience could continue to help others in unexpected ways. It would be an honor. Later that night, as Marin stood in the finished foundation space with resource materials on the shelves, comfortable consultation rooms ready for clients, the silver bucket displayed prominently in a glass case in the lobby, she felt a sense of wholeness she had been missing for months. The foundation's motto, engraved on a plaque next to the bucket, read, "The truth, like water, finds its way through any barrier." Her phone vibrated with a text from Tess. "Just saw the news. Derek's appeal was denied. All sentences upheld." Marin replied with a simple thumbs-up emoji. Derek had thought he could bury her with his lies. Instead, she had buried him with the truth. And in doing so, she had unearthed the best version of herself.